Speaking of what's going on in Israel, Palestine, Senator Bernie Sanders was preparing to introduce a resolution today in the Senate disapproving of the U.S. sale of $735 million in precision-guided weaponry to Israel. That's according to a draft of what Sanders put together that was obtained by the Washington Post. The resolution, the intent of the resolution is to halt this sale to Israel by the Biden administration of JDAMs, an acronym for Joint Direct Attack Munitions. Joint Direct Attack Munitions, and what are also referred to, this is so cute, small diameter bombs. Oh, Christ. Small diameter bombs. Now, the sale is apparently going to go ahead unless Joe Biden could stop it tomorrow morning. But it's going to go ahead as the worst hostilities in years continue in Israel-Palestine. The most devastating attacks on the Gazans and Palestinians in general by the Israelis since 2014. Well, gosh, Mike, that was only, 7 years ago? The resolution only needs a simple majority to pass the Senate. And that's not going to happen. It just isn't. Yeah, there are 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans, so all you need are 51 votes. I don't think there are 51 members of the Senate who will do a goddamn thing to tell Israel, in which is what this would be, that the United States taxpayer is no longer going to continue to provide these billions upon billions of dollars so that Israel can destroy more human beings. I don't think there are 51 senators who would do that. I guess we'll know if the resolution comes up for a vote. If Chuck Schumer, who happens to be Jewish, allows it to come up for a vote. But even then, if it were to pass with a simple majority, it could be vetoed by Joe Biden. And if that's the case, it would need a 2/3 majority in both chambers to take effect. This is a resolution. This is not a bill. This doesn't come with the force of law. But if it were to pass, a resolution like this were to pass, it would have some effect on whether or not the Biden administration would go ahead with this sale. In a statement to the Washington Post, Bernie Sanders said the following, quote, "At a moment when U.S.-made bombs are devastating Gaza, killing women and children, we cannot simply let another huge arms sale go through without even a congressional debate. I believe that the United States must help lead the way to a peaceful and prosperous future for both Israelis and Palestinians. We need to take a hard look at whether the sale of these weapons is actually helping do that, or whether it is simply fueling conflict." Well, Senator Sanders, I can give you a quick answer from my own observation. Of course, it's fueling conflict. And helping lead the way to a peaceful and prosperous future for both Israelis and Palestinians, you say, I think the Israelis already have a pretty prosperous future until they screw it up with their attacks on the Palestinians, or further theft of land, or the building of these god-awful settlements in the so-called occupied territories. I think, Senator Sanders, it is the Palestinians who have not had a prosperous anything, not a prosperous past ever since 1948, or present. Look at the way they are forced to live, or a future. So I understand, though, Senator Sanders, you have to include the Israelis in something like this, mentioning the Israelis as if, once again, there is some sort of equivalence in the way lives are led in Israel-Palestine. And that equivalence doesn't exist. Senator Sanders, you don't need me to point that out to you. Not by a damn sight. So yes, in this country, you have Jews and Christians and Muslims who are trying to get this to stop. But it doesn't go beyond marching or picketing in front of the White House or carrying signs or having prayer vigils or sending emails to our senators and representatives. Nobody has come up with any method or means of making this stop. And this is the frustrating part to me. There was no way to make the orange pile of vomit stop when he was president of the United States. There was no way to make the disgusting, subhuman Rudy Giuliani stop when he was doing the shit that he was doing to tear this country apart. There seems to be no mechanism to make any of these acts against humanity, against Americans, against anybody on earth to stop. It just keeps going and keeps getting worse. Okay, sorry for that. I get very frustrated, you know? So anyway, this action from these members of Congress, House and Senate, this comes as Biden, I think it was on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it was yesterday, Wednesday, bluntly demanded a de-escalation of hostilities. And in so doing, Biden opened a rare little rift between the United States and Israel. Oh, no. No. You mean Biden didn't give 1,000% support to this murderous goddamn Nazi Netanyahu? Oh, apparently not. Oh, my God, let's wring our hands. Let's bite our fingernails. Ooh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Now, Biden did that in the face of mounting criticism from some liberal left Democrats who are loudly condemning what they see as America's willingness to once again just ignore these egregious human rights abuses that Palestinians experience 24/7 at the hands of the Israeli government. So what Biden said, and I mean, what did he say? He said that he wants this to de-escalate. He didn't say he wants it to stop. He didn't say he wants the Israeli settlements to get the hell out of Palestinian land. He didn't say he wants the 60 laws that have been written against Palestinians that so incredibly paralleled the laws written in Nazi Germany against the Jews. Biden hasn't said he wants those laws removed from the books. He hasn't said any of that. What he said was, well, I want the fighting to de-escalate. Oh, my goodness. Oh, heavens to Betsy. Really? Wow. Gosh. Now, if you remember last week, Bernie Sanders wrote an op-ed for the New York Times that took the U.S. government to task for being too accommodating toward Israel. He also introduced a different resolution that called for an immediate ceasefire yesterday between the IDF and Hamas. And that was an alternative to the Christian fascist pig Senator Rick Scott, the criminal former governor of Florida, who I say criminal because of what he did with his so-called health insurance company, just a real grifter, but he's now a senator. But he had introduced a proposal to affirm U.S. support for Israel. See what I mean? People like Rick Scott couldn't care less about how many children are being killed because bastards like him, Rick Scott, allow it to continue through arms sales to Israel. And don't give me the rejoinder that, well, Mike, if they didn't get the weaponry from us, they'd get them from Russia or China or the moon. I don't give a shit about that in the immediate sense. Of course, I care about it in the long term. But what I care about in the short term is the blood on the hands of us, that we keep supporting these kinds of acts of terror and death and destruction. Nobody wants to talk about what we did in Vietnam. Of course not. Or Iraq, of course not. Or both times in Iraq, the first Gulf War and then our invasion of Iraq. We don't want to talk about that. We turned a country that was the cradle of civilization, Western civilization, into an abattoir. We slaughtered people. Thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people in Iraq, counting both invasions, just bloodied the sand with I mean, it just, we're not going to talk about that, though. Bernie Sanders said on the Senate floor yesterday, quote, "The devastation in Gaza is unconscionable. We must urge an immediate ceasefire." Does Joe Biden not understand the same situation in Gaza as Bernie Sanders does? Is Joe Biden is, I think he's younger than Sanders, isn't he? Or about the same age? I bring that up because is Joe Biden suffering some early dementia that he can't get the facts in his head about what is happening there? Joe Biden has supported Israel throughout his every goddamn second of his political career. Now, Biden seems to have made a turn recently in some of the legislation he's proposing. Can he not make the same turn where it concerns the slaughter that we are not only supporting and for which we're providing the weaponry, but because we provide the weaponry and because we support the slaughter, we are encouraging it? Surely Joe Biden understands that. So why can Bernie Sanders and three members of the House, the progressive members of the House, urge an immediate ceasefire, but Joe Biden can't or won't? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.